Entertain a motion to come back in and we can
do that.
just kind of finish our meals casually, no rush or no pressure.
I'll do that.
Thank you, Mayor Kronen. All those in favor? Thank you. All right, moving to 6C, Chief Mountain Solid Waste Authority bylaw. In our last meeting, which I was unable to be here for, the question came up about the difference between the federal census and the various municipal census that take place in the communities, and how that impacts the requisition. So as you see here in your packet, a letter was sent out to Scott to answer that in the creation of the new authority, and the answer was, which is true, just to report, I was there for this vote. The answer was that the authority was planning to just use the federal census and use a 5-year review on that. So it would prevent them from having those vast fluctuations in requisitions year to year. And that was just, around the table. Everybody decided that as an authority, that's the direction they would go. So if that satisfies the concerns around this table for the purposes of that, then yeah.
That be wrote into policy?
That is actually the way the policy is written currently. So that if there.
So another board can't come in and decide.
Well, no, they could actually. Yeah, at any time the bylaws can be changed by the authority. Which, I mean, the authority's switching to a commission, same rules. The commission can change its own bylaws with a majority vote of the commission. Yeah.
The only thing I would throw out, and I'm not trying to be a stick in the mud on this issue, but if it's because of the just the complexity of a moving annual census, why can't it be the higher of the two census on a 5-year recurring basis? So at 2011, 2016, 2021, what's the higher of your two census? You would find in Raymond and Sterling it's hundreds of people higher than the federal census.
Yeah.
We don't have to look at it every year. I would agree with that. That could be tricky, but it's the higher of the two numbers on a 5-year basis. It seems easy to me. Just in this case, it has hundreds of people per capita implication. That's all.
Well, and if I propose it, which I'm happy to do so, I can remind them that we are seriously considering a municipal census for the upcoming year. We hope to uncover additional people as well. So we're not just trying to pick on those that do the municipal census. We ourselves are considering doing one as well. So
I'll leave that with you. I just throw it out. If it's complexity they're talking about, it doesn't need to be adjusted every year. I don't think that has to happen.
is there an appetite for me to go back and propose that?
I like that idea.
Yeah? Okay, well, I'll make a note. I will make a note, and I can propose that in our next meeting. Take the higher of the two.
On a 5.
Yeah, every 5 years, same
5
schedule as the federal census.
Right.
That's fine. We don't need to amend it annually.
5 years. Okay. Any other thoughts then on those governance bylaws? Oh, I'd like to say that the big municipality where we're still waiting to hear from is the Blood Reserve. Last we heard they were going to maybe ask for 2 representatives, but since they're twice as big as our next largest municipality, 2 representatives, if they showed, would not be detrimental to the way it was governed. So the idea would be just to grant them that allowance, and then like I say, maybe even find out, currently their representative doesn't attend any regular meetings. So if there were 2, we may get one, we may get one, which would be great. So, but yeah, as that plays out, I'll keep you informed, and so far, they haven't committed to anything either way, so we're still waiting on that. It looks like, though, in fact, in our last meeting, the vote, as we did the first reading of the bylaws, the vote was that we would move forward as a commission even without the Blood Reserve. So they would be treated as a client, and at the current rate, And then, and they could join it at a later date, as soon as they finally, as a council, decided to sign the agreement. So whether that takes them 2 or 3 years, there was some uncertainty as to whether they would be ready for that. Now, that being said, I understand that I haven't found out yet, I haven't heard the report, that they invited Scott to come and actually attend and present to council, chief and council. And so that was very good. That got our authorities foot in the door. Scott was very excited to go and make that presentation. So I can give a report on how that went as soon as I hear. Yeah.
So is their representative, and they have had some people there from time to time, have they been elected officials or?
Yeah, their representatives are always administrative.
I was wondering,
there's-
Well,
bylaws.
they had an operator at one time.
That's what I was wondering, isn't there, the bylaws of the authority require an elected official?
Currently, yes, so the people they send technically, and they're aware, they don't really have a valid vote, but out of the courtesy, they raise their hand when we all do, and it hasn't been an issue. Most of the votes are unanimous and easygoing. There was a controversial one about some hay, but we got over that one. That was split 51%, 49%, it was pretty heated. We got through it. So,
Anyway, just questioning.
garbage hay, what's that worth? That's what that was about. So, anyway. Good, so yeah, if there are no other recommendations from this council, I'll go back and I'll propose. Of course, that may not lead a vote, but I can certainly propose it. So we'll see how that goes. Good, that moves us now to 6D, the policy C40-3, the custom contract work policy. And this is an example of, well, maybe we could just have Jeff speak to this and the relevant pieces.
If you would, Council, and I apologize how this went in, if you could scroll down to the last page in the backgrounder, it has a bunch of highlighted squares. I should have had them flipped.
Is it a backgrounder?
No, sorry,
Or
in
the
your
policy?
in the attachment here.
Okay,
Yes.
yeah, got it.
It's the attachment
There's
with
a
all the pricing.
schedule, there's a schedule at the end that I wanted to talk about first.
There's some yellow pricing there,
Yeah.
yellow boxes.
You'll recall we've been having some discussion about, can we offer a rate to those in a non-competitive environment that we must do the work for them and try and keep those costs down? Is it reasonable to charge all the costs associated with equipment or road builders rates to citizens who effectively, either through provincial income tax or local taxes, pay for the equipment, pay for the labor, they pay those costs on an annual basis? So we worked through, and this took a little while to come around, and I just wanted to use the grader as an example. It's the first line mostly, that's why I'm using it as an example. What Hawken did is he took and he established what our fixed and variable costs were to each piece of equipment. And the two things we considered in fixed costs were depreciation, because that's happening whether we use it 1 hour or 100 hours, and insurance. So our insurance, regardless of how much we use it, is the same. And the rest we considered variable costs. So they fluctuate based on the amount of use. Then what we looked at is what do we perceive our actual cost per hour are versus what the road builder's rate is. So we found our actual costs were probably 20% roughly lower than road builders' rates, our actual costs, including fixed, so including everything. And now what we wanted to avoid was having a formula for every single piece of equipment. So we sampled a few pieces to say, generally what's our margin on the average, and generally how do we compare with road builders' rates, okay? So what we did here is we discovered that we could probably take 40% off of the road builders' rates, and that would capture all of our variable costs. So that's all of our costs except for depreciation and insurance. And that was some of the direction council gave, that we probably don't need to charge the resident in a non-competitive situation, the depreciation, for example. That's probably a cost, it's a non-cash expense that we can take out of the rate. So through our sampling, we determined for the grader, if we took $168 and we put a 40% reduction on that, that put the rate at, well, we rounded to the nearest dollar, it's $100.80, but $100. And that would be maybe an appropriate rate to charge the resident in a non-competitive situation. The other thing we found is we ordered the book for the 2017 road builders rates, and many of those lines have actually come down. Road builders rates from 2015, when they were reviewed last, now they're elastic, to the previous year, but they are down a bit. And so the yellow boxes you see there are simply road builders rates that have come off, and we've adjusted accordingly. We have a hard time substantiating not staying relatively close to those rates, because that's what we use to cost our MSI projects, it's what we use to cost capital, and how do we reconcile with grants like federal gas tax and MSI. So we need a baseline that we can rationalize, otherwise we're just picking numbers, and your grants people may not appreciate that too much. So we move these down to be more in line with the current 2017 road builders rates, and then took our percentage discount off of what we would propose the new road builders rate should be. So what you have is you have two columns. We would request some changes to the road builders rates, simply because those have changed. And then we would request some approval or feedback on the discounted rate, and again, only to be implemented in a specific circumstance. So if you scroll back up to the policy, on the very bottom of page 1, and then going into page 2, we put a section here called discounted work. So the town of Cardston may apply a discounted rate for certain types of work done on behalf of residents. The criteria for the application of the rate is as follows. The town does not want to find itself in competition with or undercutting the rates of other private sector operators for work that can be awarded in a competitive environment, therefore the work must be non-competitive. This means that the work to be done by the town would, in reasonable circumstances, only be performed by the town. The most common example is a direct connection to a town water or sewer main, where the main is located within a town street or boulevard. Any excavation from the resident's home to the property line would either A, need to be done by a private contractor, or B, be done by the town at the full posted policy rate, the road builder rate. And then discretion to the CA or designate as to whether the work in question under reasonable circumstances is non-competitive. I don't want to bring every instance to council for approval, that's why I put that in. And and then we put in the policy this discounted rate. And we tried to just make it a percentage of the road builder's rate, because we didn't want to have a formula for every single piece of equipment based on its depreciation. We found that was a good average number that will capture all of our variable costs of operating the machine on behalf of the resident. And we would forego depreciation and insurance. And in my opinion is that's a fair application of the rule. I don't think we need to capture the non-cash expense in a non-competitive situation. So that's what we finally, I know this one's been getting kicked around for a while, but I'm quite happy with the rates that are in front of you. So if, any questions, obviously let's work through that, and then perhaps a recommendation to council to approve the policy.
Councillor?
Just one question, Jeff. The highlighted yellow ones are where the road builder rates have come
Correct.
down.
Yeah.
And there's not too many of them, but I was wondering if you compared those rates to our actual costs, and how do they stack up as far as, are they lower than our costs? Are they the same? Are they more?
I would have to look at a couple of those. There's going to be a couple that are probably at or just a bit lower than our actual cost once discounted.
I mean, at the proposed
At that rate, no, I would suggest we're probably still fine. I mean, you look at big differences like in the compressor, it doesn't even have an operator per se.
Yeah.
Right.
That's one of the reasons. I mean, it has someone that turns it on and off, but you're not burning a lot of fuel and running that. I think we're probably still okay there. The whacker packer is another big one, but that's actually just a small walk behind
Right.
machine, so I'm
Yeah.
quite confident we're still capturing the variable costs there.
Okay.
Councillor?
Just so I understand on this town policy on page 2 there, where you give an example of any excavation from the resident's home to the property would either be A, need to be done by a private contractor, or B, be done by the town at the fully posted policy rate.
Yeah.
So what you're saying there, if I understand correctly, that there's no discount on that kind of work?
Correct, because that can be
Thanks,
done by a
competitive.
private contractor.
Right, okay. So they can pick a choice?
They absolutely can. They can call Marvin and he can do it for them. Our rates should be similar because we're using road builder.
Right.
And so we can quote them at the road builder rate and they can make a competitive decision.
Right.
But we don't give them discretion from that point to the main.
Yeah, so if they come and say, well, why don't you give us a discount on that? You say, no, you're already getting the proper rate.
And if they say, well, I know a guy that can do it cheaper, we'll say, you should grab
Go
that
ahead
guy.
and grab
Yeah,
him,
you should
yeah.
get him.
Yeah, because I was, looking at these posted rates, some of these rates, for instance, that Stuart Amos sweeper there, it used to be, it looks like at $175, and now
Yeah.
you're saying that the road builders have dropped down to
Yeah.
105. That's already discounted rate.
Well, it would be now. Most construction crews would follow that.
Yeah.
And the other thing is, no one else in the region owns a street sweeper, for one, and rarely do we rent that out. It's not
Yeah.
ever really part of the construction process.
Right.
That's a bit of an anomaly in here.
Okay.
Because it's probably not one, there's a lot of comparatives through the province. Not a lot of construction crews with a street sweeper.
Right. So it doesn't, is there ever a job in town that
Yeah,
would use?
we'll get one of the malls or commercial businesses say, hey, could you come run that through when you go by? And it takes us 20 minutes, and so we bill them accordingly.
Okay.
Yeah.
Mayor?
Well, I will recommend to council that we approve policy C43.
Excellent. All right, are there any other questions about the policy? I just have one, Jeff, and you may not know the answer, which is fine, but in Schedule A here, sorry, I must seem to have lost it. Schedule A, this is the last page, Schedule A. The top item is for tree trimming, and I just noticed that's significantly higher than everything else. Is that because there's multiple people and equipment
Yeah,
involved?
you've got a tandem truck,
Yeah.
a chipper, a bucket truck, and multiple operators.
Right.
It's
At
a
least
big,
2 or 3.
yeah.
It's a big deal,
Yeah,
and that's the hourly rate.
Correct.
Oh yeah, I just didn't know if a decimal point got misplaced.
No, it's because you have
Yes, it's
multiple
about
pieces of
3
equipment,
people.
multiple operators,
Where's
yeah.
that?
At the very bottom.
Very bottom, the final page.
Labor rates.
Of labor rates.
Oh,
But yeah, no, so that's fine. We have a recommendation then on the table from Mayor Kronen. All those in favor of recommending to council this policy, please indicate. Good, no opposed, so that carries, and thank you very much. So that moves us then into section 7, other business. We'll start off with 7A. This is the citizen satisfaction survey results. Hopefully you had a chance to go through those. It was not very well subscribed. What were the final numbers again?
It was mid-40s, I want to say 46, 47.
it's 48 here.
Oh, 48, okay, thank you.
Okay.
48 respondents, for the most part, fairly predictable we didn't see anything that jumped out at us as surprising. And, we have a huge satisfaction with our fire department, that was noteworthy. And everything else is just good information. Are there any questions about the report? Yeah, go ahead.
I just have one comment. I actually got one of the comments, if I can find the comment, I got in person. I didn't add it to the agenda because it was in the citizen satisfaction survey. It had to do with the leafy spurge
Oh,
comment. And
We have a problem now.
so yeah. And the individual that talked to me said the county seems to have a solution. He says we should talk to Rod Foggen and find out what they used. He says they seem to be able to control it in the county. So anyway, I just want to bring that up to council and to administration. Maybe we should
So
look at that.
we work with Rod all the time. I
Do we?
would argue they can't control it in the county. Just
Well,
take a drive
maybe
out-
not.
Take a drive out to Curls and all the way up that whole road in the creek if you want proof of that. And then it flows right into town.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're well aware of it. The staff spent yesterday whipping it all, knocking it down on Lions Park on the whole south side. Next week, we actually have a large truck and tank rented to do the whole Creek Valley hillsides.
Okay.
So that's coming around next week.
So what chemical are we using?
I'm not sure what it
Does
is.
it actually?
I think it's par 3 is what it is, if I recall. It's a mix of Banville and par 3, if I
Okay.
remember.
Uh-huh.
Now, that's an area I'm not expert in, but I kind of think that's what it is.
Yeah.
So we'll knock it down. I learned a little bit about this morning, but we'll knock it down now before it seeds, and in the hillsides, they'll go spray. Probability of containment is pretty much nil because it just doesn't respond well season over season to it, but we'll continue to knock it down. to frustrate it anyway.
Yeah, well, okay, I mean, my comment to the individual was that, you know, that we hadn't found a way, and anyway, he seemed to, I says, you know, if there's something that's effective, I'm all for it, but.
We buy our chemical through the county,
But
through
I'm
Rock.
not, you know, I haven't been really in favor of spraying, because what I've seen is that the leafy spurge comes back really fine, but the Saskatoons are
I know.
suffering. They're
Willows
dead.
suffer, the Saskatoons suffer.
And,
It's absolutely a problem.
But like I say, I'm willing to bring in a couple of goats to.
Yeah.
Sure, I mean,
We've tried a number of things. We brought in the larvae, the
Yeah.
spurge larvae.
Mhm.
They didn't do anything. We can't, I think we lost them
Yeah.
over winter as well. So they are knocking it all down right now.
Mhm, yeah.
Can we try the
Can-
goats?
Well, there are sheep. I know, I did some looking on the internet, and University of Colorado did some studies, and they found a combination of sheep and flea beetles seemed to be quite effective.
Oh.
And that was, you know, you look it up on the internet, see if you can
Yeah.
find the same thing, but.
We're using the county's guideline for chemical. They seem to feel they have some jurisdiction to bother us about the weeds in town. I haven't quite figured that one out. We're managing it by knocking it down. So the same, not maybe the same if it was grazed, but knocking it down before it can seed and then spray it again what we knocked down in the fall. But yes, those hills are going to be sprayed next week.
Can I ask? I know where extra food is along the creek there
Yeah.
on the west side. There is an awful lot of it, so is that going to?
So that'll be mowed down because we can't
Down.
spray there.
You can't spray.
Right, that's what I was
Yeah.
wondering. I
So
was
we just can
thinking-
only mow that down. And the other
Yeah.
problem is if you just go across the bridge, it's just a field of spurge. And so
Well,
it just comes
yeah.
back under, but we will just mow it down, well, we whack it down, I should say.
Okay.
And
I
then try and
just
stay on
was-
top of it.
I just was wondering.
Yeah, that proximity
Thank
to
you.
the creek is problematic on dealing
I
with some of
know,
that.
I know it always is.
But Councillor Creed's right, we've had days that, you know, we've sprayed carefully, but if it's hot, that drift will carry quite a ways. And it can really impact the vegetation around it, so we're trying to be really quite careful with it, where everything's in such close proximity. This isn't a 10-hectare field with nothing in it, but you know, what, your winter wheat, right? We have to be much more careful there.
Right.
So we are working on it.
It's really a miserable problem, it's getting worse rather
Yeah.
than better.
Yep, agreed.
So, if there are no other questions, we'll, again, take that citizen satisfaction results as information. And we were talking, actually, Jeff, if you want to speak to this, we're talking about perhaps moving from an annual to a every other year survey to try to get more respondents.
Yeah, we just found that we had this survey open for as long as we ever have, longer than we ever have. We got very few written responses. They were almost, not all, but most of them electronic, which is great because we can really manipulate the data well there.
We got rid of duplicates.
We got rid of duplicates. I mean, we thought we were off to a roaring start when we had 50 the first day, and then 35 of them were one person and 15
Oh, no.
was another.
Serious?
Yeah, so we deleted 14 of one and 34 of another, and our responses weren't so brisk. But, yeah, we just got to really, I don't know how to interpret the feedback, whether no news, is, you know, people don't have any major issues, obviously. So they're not using that as their outlet, or, if, hey, I answered last year, my answers are the same this year. I don't know, I'm not sure. So we were just having some discussion, is would it be best once a term, would it be best every other year? I don't know.
Yeah, thought.
Yeah, I noticed that also, you know, in the graph at the beginning, that because most of them are electronic, it puts us in a certain demographic. You know, I know we have a lot more elderly people in the community, but because they're not necessarily technology up to speed,
Savvy,
you know,
yeah.
and maybe we just need to hand deliver more of these in the
Yeah,
community. I don't know, to get them out,
that's-
because that's the problem, I think.
Yeah.
Is that people aren't, the people that aren't technologically savvy aren't seeing the notice.
Perhaps.
And,
The question is, if we expend the resource to do it, do we really,
Get
are we gonna do anything
out
with the
of it.
result?
Yeah.
So we're gonna take this for information, great, and frankly, we're never gonna speak of it again. I don't mean to be crass about people's efforts here, I'm just saying,
Yeah.
So we got the information.
Yeah,
Okay.
So we spend 100 man-hours to get the information.
It becomes
Then
very
what?
relevant if we start seeing things that we weren't
Yeah,
expecting.
That's right.
And in this
That's
case,
right.
it
Right
was
now it's
expected
it's-
details,
yeah, it's pretty
Main Street,
expected.
that kind of thing,
Yeah.
things that we know, yeah.
I'm just wondering then in that case, maybe to satisfy some of what you're talking about, is that possible even every second year to have something when we send our tax notices? To have a little bit, maybe not as complex as what this is, but more or less with a different kind of category and try to figure out, do you have any concern regarding regarding those categories, where they might say, okay, safety, security, I still have issue with that, and maybe they would give us more information than a survey like that would give us, because that gives us nothing.
Well, it gives you an indication of,
But it's
you
not
have your majority in the
relevant.
two middle.
I know, but
answers.
48 return for a population
Not
15
relevant,
is
yeah.
not statistically relevant.
Yep.
Therefore, you can't use it.
Except for the fire department, we're using that one.
The other thing to keep in mind is if you put out a survey, which definitely could, that's all written responses, that becomes, if you get good return, it becomes incredibly cumbersome now to deal with
Yeah,
information.
yeah, because you have to, but I totally agree.
Yeah, so that becomes a trick.
But it
too.
depends what you're trying to do.
Mhm.
If it's going to be to influence the way we do business at this table, then we need to know. And if we feel that is a way to come to know, then maybe we need to figure out if it's worth spending the man-hour to do it.
Yeah,
If we're not going to use it for any purpose,
Don't do it.
then what is the other voice you give people to express their satisfaction or lack of?
well, one thing I think about when I see these, and again, there's good information here, and I appreciate the people that spend the time. But if you as elected officials weren't surprised by anything here, perhaps you have a relatively good pulse of the community. Perhaps in your interactions day to day with people you're talking to, we all knew the concerns about safety and security in Main Street were coming in. Of course we did. Of course we knew that. And so this reiterates what we knew, which is great. And again, there wasn't anything that was a surprise, and if there was, I'd say that's really valuable because none of us saw it coming.
Right.
Yeah.
But there wasn't. You know, we could have predicted the outcomes pretty close. If we would have sat down and said, how do we think this is going to stack out?
Yeah.
I think we could have been pretty close. So it's a bit of an indication that maybe you as elected officials have a fairly good pulse, if nothing surprised you.
No. Okay, well,
So we can look at that in January again, whether the new council at that time wants to do something that goes out and see what
Just
we
a,
find.
just a comment. I think over the 3 and a bit years that we've been the council here, I think that we've gotten out a lot of information to the community. We've explained to them what we're doing, we've explained to them why we're doing. The mayor's given some wonderful reports, and they've been in the newspaper, and I've had numerous people stop me on the street or in a business or wherever, grocery store, and say we really enjoyed the council reports. And we know what's going on. And so I think those things make a difference, a big difference. And so, and to say that people aren't concerned or apathetic, I don't think that at all. I think they're just satisfied because they're pleased that there's information out there that they didn't seem to be getting prior.
Yeah.
And so I don't think that it's because it was only 48. I think that there's a lot of people out there that probably are already satisfied and didn't feel the need. So that's my
Yeah,
take.
I was actually had a comment, but I just noticed the clock, so I
Oh,
thought we
thank you.
could go on. I will
Thank you.
make a motion, I'll just make a motion to extend an hour, and hopefully we'll be done before that. So motion to extend for an hour?
To extend, all in favor?
to it.
We don't have to go till late, I just don't want to have to extend twice.
That's fine.
Now, just the comment that I was going to make on the, we could look at alternatives such as visiting like the seniors organizations or town hall meetings and getting the pulse through those. I don't, the citizen satisfaction going on the electronics doesn't really cost us a lot to do that.
No.
I mean, if we were to door-to-door flyers, that would become more cumbersome, more costly. But maybe we could supplement that.
We've done it.
So the
Yeah.
mayor and I actually went and presented
We've
the
done it.
survey to the seniors and. and,
We've done it.
Yeah,
So
so we
did
just
you-
didn't get many from them.
Well, maybe you just have to listen to their verbal
Perhaps.
comments and then you can bring that back, because, it's
Yeah.
hard to fill them out.
Quick comment.
Yeah.
Councillor Edmonds goes to the seniors luncheons fairly regularly, and I attend as often as I can, and the mayor's there as well. I find that if they've got a concern, they're gonna talk to you right there.
Yeah, they
And
are.
in the 3 years that I've been going to those luncheons, I've hardly had anybody come and say, what's going on with the town, blah, blah, blah. They've been happy.
Yeah.
And that's the, how, do you feel the same sense, Dave?
Yeah.
And Mayor? That's what I'm getting, and so that tells me a
That's
lot.
good.
Where the seniors are,
Yeah, no, that's good.
so.
Our media reports improved after we started feeding the media. No, that's great, no, yeah. Personally, I agree with all of your comments. I think for the sake of transparency, we keep doing our annual, and then at least people know they have the voice. If they don't take advantage of that, that's fine, as long as, we can say, hey, there was the satisfaction report, and we'd still be happy to hear any of your thoughts or comments, even after now it's closed.
Just a thought, Chairman, that the mayor kind of hit the nail on the head. I think maybe a yearly one is a little bit much, especially with the new council coming on. I mean, you don't know that first year of council whether, because everybody's kind of feeling their way along. I don't think we need to have another one right away. I think 2018, or I guess the next one would be the next year after. I think that's plenty of time. I don't think we need to do another one next year. The response we got last year was very similar. So we're not getting a lot there, so.
But when you have a new council, you might have a
You might want to
different
share.
thing.
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying, we probably, it wouldn't be, I think it'd be pointless to put it out there, right away, to 18.
We'll give the new council some time.
Yeah.
But you might want to share with the new council the last.
Oh, yeah,
citizens
certainly we
survey
could,
so they
you
can
know,
see.
they can be, that
see where we-
information
where
be
we've
shared,
been.
what's been going on. They can decide, I guess, too, but anyways, that's my feeling.
I think where we have greatly improved the capacity to inform people is by the use of all the multimedia that we have allowed the citizens to use as a venue to express their concerns. And I must say, administration and their team have been very good at following up on people's concerns. And I think that has made a big, big difference. When people post a concern and they get an answer from Jeff or from one of his managers regarding the issues, they know that somebody has paid attention to them.
Yep.
And wouldn't you be satisfied to know that somebody pay attention to your concern? Of course you would
Yeah,
be.
absolutely.
So they are treated with respect, and we're treating them as what they're saying or what they're concerned about is important, which it should be. So I think we have made a great effort in improving customer satisfaction, which is taxpayer satisfaction or citizen. Yeah, sure.
Jeff, did you have a?
No.
All right, well, thank you for that, and good thoughts all around. We probably then won't hear about a satisfaction survey until after the election, and we'll revisit it then. The next item, 7B, is not an item it's not a file in your OneDrive, so you just have to open up the background document if you want to read the little snippet there, but essentially what it amounts to is that the Canadian Badlands has been helping to support the tourism initiative of things like the Mormon Trail, the Chautauqua. They've done some good work there and representing our town. And technically, we are not currently one of their members, So they approached Jeff and said, hey, wouldn't it be better if you guys were full members? The fee is roughly about 50 cents per citizen, so maybe, you know, $1,800 to participate. One of the thoughts is, hey, we're already getting the benefit of membership without paying, let's keep that model going. But really, the concern came up, maybe now isn't the best time to come and pitch us on joining Badlands, and maybe assigning a councillor and a whole big to-do. Perhaps it might be better to just postpone until after the election, let the new council kind of take a look at all their ABCs and reassess at that time the value of each different group. What are they getting out of, how's South Pro doing, how's Alberta Southwest fulfilling some of our needs there? Are we in fact in the Badlands? But, you know, like, I don't think it would be a problem to have them come to the new council and pitch. I think that's fine. And then kind of let the new council decide. So if there's an appetite for Canadian Badlands to visit us while we still meet, like this summer, we can invite them to come and give us the pitch now, or we can just simply refer to administration to have them plan to come after the new election. Any thoughts on that?
I think it's a little late in our tenure for them to come and try and pitch our membership proposal there. I think we should just put it on administration for the next council. I don't think we are in the Badlands either.
Right, well, that's...
Sometimes we are.
Sometimes we're bad hot water.
Well,
Madam.
I know that we have had that item on the table many times. And every time, we never seem to find collectively a desire to be part of that organization. Now, having said that, Raymond Mayer was the president of the association for many years, and he said there is great value in being part of that organization. So I think a presentation to the next council might be the right thing to do.
Everybody agree? All right, then we'll move on then to 7C. This is a request from the Southern Alberta Recreation Association that our town consider the summer games for 2018 and 2019. A suggestion was made that perhaps this proposal be just delegated over to the Parks and Rec Committee, and that maybe, since they're an ad hoc committee, they would schedule a meeting to discuss this very thing. But thoughts?
Okay, that is also, as Councillor Bengry is whispering under his breath, it's also an item that has come back to the table many times. In the past, we as a town have greatly supported the summer games. But it takes citizens in your town to take the lead. We as a municipality, as a town and council, can't take that lead. So Parks and Recs, I agree, it's more or less in their mandate to look at that. But there again, they probably would say no, because they probably don't have the champion to move that forward. And it doesn't come cheap either.
No.
But it's not a bad way to expose your town to traffic. The only thing is, if we don't have the champion, it won't happen.
Councillor.
We've supported the summer games in our venues, that they've been exposed to our venues. And we allow them to use the venues, and maybe that's more support than actually hosting the games. Because we have some beautiful ball diamonds, you know, and all the other recreation facilities here. I think we need to look at it in that view.
As a member for council on the Parks and Rec, we've talked about this several times. And it always boils down to kind of what the mayor is saying too. And they said the absolute soonest that they'd ever consider would be 2019, if at all.
Yeah.
And they were trying to figure out who we get to head it up, you know.
Well,
And that's not an easy situation, and their concern is that we've got facilities that we're still working on. We've got proposals to work on, maybe a bocce ball, some tennis. I had somebody adamantly about tennis just the other night, that we needed to get the tennis courts fixed, and not torn down, but fixed, or replaced. But, and we're working on the pool, we've got a 2-year process in our swimming pool
Yeah.
thing going on right now with the new building and everything, so
So what if they were looking at 2020,
that
but
might be
start to
palatable.
send a little bit of feelers
Yeah,
for people who might be interested in championing that? I mean, it doesn't mean that we cannot help as a town.
is that a volunteer position, the person that heads that up, or is there a
Many
stipend?
communities pay them for that because it's quite a big ordeal.
Okay.
So they will normally find a manager and pay them for that time and leading up to it.
So it's like a year-long contract?
Yeah,
sort of
usually,
thing?
yeah.
So that's something, I think, if your group could maybe look at it and say,
Yeah.
okay, 2020, we want to be committed, at least we can put money in the budget,
Mhm,
and then start looking for that champion.
yeah.
Councillor?
Yeah, just Councillor Bengry's comment made me wonder, you said we've supported with some of our venues. Does that mean that this could be done with an intermunicipal collaboration with another community?
Well, the whole of the games.
So
can
that
be
might be
in there.
something that the rec board could consider when they're, thinking about whether we want to host it, is thinking about whether they want to invite another community to work with them and do it as like an intermunicipal collaborative project.
Like Raymond McGrath,
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking, if you get some of these other.
could be good.
Councillor,
maybe they can work on it together.
do you need any more direction from us? Or
Nope, I'm fine.
We're good there, then fabulous. We will move on to 7D. Now, this is a kind of a bigger request to take a look at. Mr. Shem Simmons has requested that we consider an avenue closing down one of our lane accesses to a private drive. Of course, we would still have an easement. Sorry, you have a comment there? I was going to have Jeff speak to
Can I
this.
speak to this?
Yeah, you may.
Living right across the road from this,
You're close.
and our CAO lived right next door, basically.
Yeah.
We have seen an increase in traffic through there to get to
It's a
the
public
center of the
thoroughfare
town.
now.
It's absolutely a thoroughfare. I've walked over to Shem's place. I see where the sidewalk is. I see his situation. I had a break-in in my home, or my vehicles, and I didn't get as much stolen, but it cost me probably as much to secure my vehicles again. But Shem has lost lots of money, and this council is asking for a safe, supply community. I think this is totally in line that we look at closing that off, and allow him to fence that off, and we still have the easement there. But the traffic ends at the end of that driveway.
Councillor?
Are we talking like fencing along the laneway and then a gate?
Or
Is
closing,
that what we're talking about?
closing the end off,
Yeah.
just closing it off.
How do you close it off? I mean,
Let's
there's-
hear from administration.
Yeah,
If you look at the map,
Yeah.
Of the houses.
so you see the lane, and on the north side is Shem's house, Mr. Simmons' house, and on the other side is Mr. Anderson's house.
Mhm.
The discussion that when I asked them where they would put the fence is essentially from the southwest corner of the Simmons home to the northwest corner of the Anderson home.
Oh, just sort of in the middle of the.
Yeah, right between them.
Okay.
Cut straight through. And that would
That
cut
would
down
block the
the
whole,
traffic.
it would block that entire lane, yes.
So
That's
you're
his
gonna
house.
fence it off along there, is that what you're saying?
So straight across it.
So the town would still have access to it from both sides for the utility work.
Okay, I'm still not getting the whole picture here, so I've got it right here, I know it, I've got the
So the
picture.
Simmons.
I'm just talking about, are we talking a fence on either side of the
So,
laneway,
it
or
would
are you
be
just talking about a
fence
gate
right here.
across there?
He's
Just
talking
fence.
full fence.
Perpendicular to the laneway.
Yeah.
Cutting off everything.
Right at the end of that drive-through.
A full fence right there.
The two houses that are
That'll
on either
look
side of
that
the lane,
house.
just a fence
That
between
right
them.
there.
Yep.
Boom.
Okay,
Yeah.
Now
And then
traffic
everyone
can't
still has
get
Now they
access to
can't
their
get through there.
garages and
Yeah.
backyards and everything like that.
But cut off the through
okay,
traffic.
that makes sense.
Yeah.
So one thing just to, I know it's very minor details, Mr. Simmons had asked in his letter to close the lane, and I think that's entirely unnecessary.
Yeah.
You know, it's utilities under there.
It's the lane anyway.
I don't think we need to be,
I mean, we could look at giving them each a portion of it and closing it, but I think really what they're after here is the ability, the permission to fence it off and to see if that curbs the traffic. But I'm not suggesting we need to go through the subdivision and surveying exercise of
Yeah.
closing a lane. I think really what would be satisfactory here is we keep it as our lane, we simply do an agreement with the property owners that they fence it. If we have to take up the fence for construction, it's at their cost. You know, in the chance we have to dig through there and replace mains and everything, that they'd be required to dismantle it at their cost and time and then put it back up again. We've done this in other areas where
Exactly.
the adjacent owner has built a fence under the understanding that if we ever need it gone, that's the risk they run.
Are we talking a gate type fence or?
Well, I
Just-
talked to Sean about that. To put a gate in there, if you're not gonna lock the gate, it makes it kind of pointless,
Yeah.
because everyone can just use the gate.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
So
Is
it
it
may have a
fenced?
gate, but it would be locked.
Maybe a couple of adjacent property owners would have a key so they can get through.
She can go in their front door and out their back door.
You're right.
Not gonna happen.
You go around the other house.
Councillor.
I think a fence could be designed where the panels sit in a situation where they take out an 8-foot panel or a 6-foot panel for access to the utilities, you know, and leave the posts there. But you start putting gates in, and for some reason, gates don't last, they never stay latched, they're always flapping in the wind, and they, you know.
Yeah.
Okay.
We have several properties in Westridge with gates, and we would just prefer to panel them right on. And I think for Mr. Simmons and the other people on that area, the answer is to design a fence with the panels that can be removed for access to the utilities if it needs to be.
We would probably need a recommendation to administration to allow this. Mayor?
I will put a recommendation that we accept the request of Mr. Simmons to close the lane.
Well, not legally.
Not close
But
the lane.
no,
Fence off the
To
lane.
fence off the
Yeah.
lane. Yeah, sorry. Yeah, you're correct. Otherwise, we have land issue.
Yep.
And there are
Fence.
north-south fences there now?
There are, most of those yards are all fenced.
But nothing across.
This wouldn't connect in them, they were just trying to
No.
take the shortest chunk from home to home. And then potentially a sign on the east side that says private lane, no through traffic, that kind of
Yeah,
idea.
those homeowners are still gonna have access to get
Oh, yeah.
into their garages and into their houses
That
through the
won't
garage.
change nothing.
Yeah,
So it's not a problem for them.
That makes it a long driveway.
yeah, it really is. It's a shared driveway between the four of
Anyways,
them.
yeah.
Yeah.
All right, we have a recommendation then to allow a fence to cut across here. And all those in favor? Okay, passed. Thank you for that. Moving now to 7E, the AUMA resolution request. Resolutions for this upcoming AUMA, which of course doesn't happen until after the new election. But the resolutions need to be submitted by the end of June. So we only have a couple of weeks left, and administration is not aware of any pressing issues that we might want to comment on or propose. Are there any thoughts from this council?
Councillor Creek, don't come up with a bright idea.
No, I would, but I won't be there, so I'm not gonna.
There's a lot of work to get that going. Or you write it.
I would, no, that's,
We've been quite successful as a
I'll-
council in the past. We
I'll be
pretty much
willing to
get
listen.
everything we ask for.
listen and learn.
Yeah, councillor.
Do we need to worry about MSI funding
Long term.
extending beyond where it is now?
You know,
You have, I think,
Somebody
what,
else is
2
clearing
years?
it up, I'm sure.
You and everyone else.
Yeah.
Okay.
that is really,
Just a question.
a recurring
And I
concern.
would suggest too, Councillor, to that, in all seriousness, it is on the top of AUMA's political agenda anyway.
Yeah, it is.
The resolution, in fact, you'll see it in previous years, so they wouldn't allow it anyway, because you have to go review the previous years to see if it's still on the table. And I'm certain it's there, it's on the top
But
of
it
there.
was last year
Yeah.
already.
Yeah.
And not that it's our biggest of the concerns, we don't have a lot of, what do you call it, pipes underground and stuff like that, the linear stuff. But there is a concern out there, and I'm sure those in other areas of the province are gonna bring it up with, what are they gonna do with
The capping.
the loss of taxation on those linear things, because they're walking away from them. You know, there's 1,500 wells that are gonna be, just abandoned, and the lines are in disrepair, and the companies are going bankrupt.
But if you remember last year, there was
Yes.
A resolution.
regarding that,
Mhm.
and AUMA has brought that to the
Okay.
government.
That's the only thing that's really I was thinking
Yeah.
about.
Yeah,
Well, plus the government has a lot of, I think it's $1.8 million.
allowed, yeah, for recovery.
Yeah, it's gonna cost a lot more than that, I'm sure.
But it's a start.
Just to start, yeah,
It's a private company that's looking into this.
yeah.
Yeah. So,
Anyways,
All right.
other than that, I have nothing else.
Well, then, it looks like the town of Cardston will not be submitting any resolutions to AUMA this year. That brings us now to 7F, which is business arising from the delegations. First, we had a presentation from Mr. Tim Court about the War Memorial. Yeah, some thoughts.
I'm prepared to make a motion that we support Mr. Court's recommendation of the establishment of a cenotaph or a memorial wall with wanting more information, financial and also site situations.
Financial, wanting to get more information about financial implications and
Right.
site.
Right.
Did you get all that, Jill?
In other words, you're supporting it in principle.
Yeah.
Supporting in principle and in kind, where makes sense. So that's, thank you, that's a great recommendation. Supporting in principle at this point, they're still in the information gathering phases. This could be a significant line item on next year's budget, so we would like to know what that looks like, and perhaps maybe even a financial decision of that magnitude might not be made until next council.
Well, depending on what the Legion decides.
Right, sure. So,
Yeah, there's grants.
yeah, the prospect of 50% matching grants, even, taking into consideration the in-kind contribution of the town, which is significant, so that'll be very good. So, there's a recommendation to agree in principle to the War Memorial. Any other thoughts, questions? All those in favor? All right, thank you. Next, we look at Dr. Russell's question about what is the town going to do about this situation, if anything? Do we want to take action? Do we want to wait until we get our next police report? Yeah.
I tend to agree with Dr. Russell. We've got I think maybe you have a special meeting or something with our local RCP head, because it's getting out of control. There's a lot of things going on, and I do property management, and I'm seeing it too, and it's really hard. We need to, maybe there needs to be some kind of pressure put on by us with the RCP. They've got to do something. If it's taking 3 weeks to even get any information, get a statement, to me, there's something wrong with that. So I think perhaps that Jeff should probably get in touch with Staff Sergeant Zane at Demniak and have him, at least meet with the police commission, members of the police commission, and explain what's going on. So by next week, we can have some more information.
Councillor?
I think the mayor, in her position, has addressed this situation with Sergeant Zane, and I think we need to wait a little bit more, and I think this might come out in his police report but I would suggest that the mayor is the one who deals with this with Sergeant Zane.
Mayor?
There are various levels of concerns here.
Yes.
One is that we have to be careful that once information is reported that is not from the person that receives the issue or was concerned, some facts might not be exactly totally correct or interpreted correctly. So we have to kind of be careful that second or third party information that we get might not be as reliable as first-hand report. So that's a concern that I had, and I realized that some of the information that I got and some information I got from Dr. Russell doesn't exactly always perfectly jive. So this is why I say it's possible that there's some information that has not transpired exactly the way it quite occurred. My concern is that if there was indeed someone that was wielding a knife in that group, I am sure that if that in a 911 call had been mentioned, that they would have dispatched someone right away. We had the force in town. And once that were dispatched from town, took them 2.5 minutes. So I don't really know how the call to dispatch was done. And yes, the questions that were asked were definitely asked, there's no doubt, asked Sergeant Savignac about those questions. And I said those are regular questions that are asked to make sure that when they dispatch people, they don't put their people at harm's way either, so that know what kind of response needs to be done, one cruiser to cruiser or whatever. So that apparently is not an abnormal questions when there is a group of people. So I'm not sure of that. The other concern I have is definitely the safety and security of our town. There is no doubt that we as council need to be, thank you, concerned about that item. There is no doubt that in the past 7 years or 8 years I lived in this town, that I've seen increased activity with malicious intent. I've seen it. So that we need to make the detachment aware of the global concerns we have, we must. And so you are right. Discussing an issue like Dr. Russell had in the public, we cannot do that because there is legal ramification. That's an issue. So how do we deal with issues of policy where we need to allow the police their space to do their work without creating legal problem? I don't know. That always was the question we had.
Yeah.
How do we do it?
Councillor Bengry?
When we first got the COP program going, and I'm thinking about this problem there, we worked with the RCMP, we got emergency phone numbers, how to safeguard your home, and all this kind of stuff. I'm not wondering if we haven't got a group that's still active, that could sit down with the RCMP and make out a brochure and distribute it, and say, if you ever have the need to call 911, these are the immediate things that you need to respond to and questions you need to respond, and give them an information packet and do it through possibly the COP program. And that way, there's two, sources of good information and expelling that information. Because the public needs to know how to communicate with the RCP, with dispatch, with emergency services. They could do the whole pamphlet on everything. And 911 is involved in emergency services. So I suggest we go to administration and say, hey, administration, why don't you look at calling in somebody and seeing what their response is to it. The chairman of the COP program, and see what his response is to it. And work with the RCP.
So you're recommending maybe an education piece?
Yes.
Just to let our citizens be aware of?
Yes, because when the mayor investigated, questions were answered, but there was some avoided information given. So we need to educate our public on how to respond to emergency 911 calls, poison center, all that kind of stuff, and get those phone numbers out and work with the RCMP. And I think those two groups could work together very good.
It's not a bad recommendation. Jeff, do you want to speak to that?
I just was thinking, there's a lot of unknowns between the two parties here and what council.
Exactly.
It's hard to determine how you should react when maybe you're not confident you have all the information. My question is, would it be appropriate to refer this to the ad hoc policing committee and they come back with a report in the second meeting of the month to say, we have a bit of a better understanding, here's maybe some things that didn't go right, here's some things, you've heard from Dr. Russell now, we go and talk to Sergeant Smeniak and try and understand this thing a little better. My feeling is it may be appropriate to have that reference and then we go from there. That's exactly what I'm saying.
So
Go with Dennis's recommendation.
Dennis is recommending we refer to the policing committee to come back with a report on the progress of this specific case,
Yeah.
but also maybe some thoughts and ideas on how to better educate the public as to response in a situation that escalates. Any other thoughts, concerns? All those in favor of that recommendation? All right, thank you. Yeah.
There's one other piece of this that Dr. Russell wants to follow up on, and this is his perceived loss of value in the property. And he made a comment during his, very quickly, but he was much more assertive with me on this one, but he made a comment in his presentation that this council will look at getting his property reassessed and pitching for reassessment of his property based on decreased value of his property, perceived decreased value. I don't want to assert any of that. My question is, when he calls me and asks if I'm going to send Morgan out to drop the assessment by 75%, I'm pulling a number here. Are we entertaining that in any way?
Okay. I can just give a little bit of a background. When I lived in BC, I was broken in twice in a home. Not by any fault of mine, but just by people that were up to no good. My property went up 5 times from the day I bought it. So it had absolutely no impact whatsoever.
Was it that valuable they had to break in front of it?
So I do not think that such an incident created a problem. The neighborhood definitely has an impact on the market value of your property. That is true. That was true when Mr. Russell bought the property also. It's a lovely property, I must say. The issue is, I do not know that somebody is broken in or has an issue, that the town should become responsible of buying the house or of having the house devaluated. I do not know that that is common practice.
Councillor.
Just a thought, and when I talked to Dr. Russell a week ago, first thought that I had was, where is the responsibility of the landowner in this whole thing? If the police have indeed made comments that they're watching this place as a potential drug distribution center, crack house, whatever, what's the responsibility, whether us or the police, letting that homeowner know and make suggestions to get that cleaned up? Because in the Real Estate Act, it says that if you're known, having a property that's known to have illegal activities going on in there, then it's a serious offense. And it has to be investigated. I know whenever I list a property or I sell a property, I have to disclose any of those potential things, right? Now, I'm going to throw out this, and there's no blame being thrown out here. When the town sold that property down the street there to Mr. Levitt, okay, the house that used to be Bill Dawson's place, now, there was a client that came and walked away from the first offer. They had done drug testing in that house, and every level of that house showed evidence that there was drug paraphernalia, there was drugs that had been made in that house, and it was quite strong. And a simple test like that, if that could be done, find out really quickly whether it's happening in that place, and then any accusations that are out there are either false.
Yeah, but hold on a second. On which ground are you going to go in somebody's property, just on hearsay?
I'm not saying hearsay at all.
Well,
Yeah,
which
you are.
evidence? What we see on the street that we believe
Mhm.
could be a potential drug deal. Are you 100% sure where is your actual proof? If you go in court, if you don't have that actual proof, you'll be thrown out of court in an instant.
I guess you have to get warrants.
Yeah.
You know, that's something that has to be
But
done.
on
You
which
can't just-
ground do you get that warrant?
You have to have a reasonable.
Yeah, you have to have a reasonable sense that it's actually happening. But what do? Do you sit back and say, well, do we have any grounds, or we don't? Do we just let it go till nothing happens? You
Council
know?
cannot decide that.
No.
Only the police can decide that.
That's right, and I guess that's where I'm saying, you should go to the ad hoc committee and they need to discuss these things.
And I think we'll be-
You know, this may not be relevant, but anyway, throw it out there. If you don't mind.
Absolutely.
We're having terrorist events all over the world. I'm not talking about it, I'm just saying, there is some relevance here. When the mayor of London, first of all, gives all kinds of comments saying that you're blaming this for that and that, and then all of a sudden he comes out after 6 people, or another 6 people are killed, or 7 people are killed, then they start throwing out the blame and say, oh, we should have been more vigilant, and we're not at that level. I don't want to scare anybody, I'm just saying, we can't just sit back and wait for these things to happen. Regardless, there has to be something that's done, there has to be some proactivity, I think.
So you're recommending then that the policing committee discuss further
I do.
enforcement options?
Yep,
That's what they're there for.
Sure.
that's exactly what
And we can
we can't
ask-
do it, I understand that.
You can ask
No,
that they
but
come back with recommendations
Mhm.
along those lines, yeah.
Okay, I hear all of what you're saying, and all of us have great concern. When our citizens do not feel safe in their home, we have a problem. Now, this is an incident that could have been very serious and have horrible consequences. We can just imagine. It didn't happen, and I'm grateful for that. But you are right. We need to let the police know that we want to understand what better things could be done to protect our town and properties, citizens. That always is a concern of ours. Do we have the magic bullet and answer? No.
Absolutely not.
I mean, we are still a very safe community, and we should pride ourselves to be a safe community. Everything well? No. And are we concerned about it? Of course we are. Do we have all the tools to fix it? At this time, we haven't found those tools. So, the citizens of our town are frustrated, so are we. If we could only find a solution. I wish I
Back to the
could.
1800s.
What's that?
Back to the 1800s.
Vigilante.
Well,
We have a recommendation, I think we voted on it, so we'll let the policing committee pursue this further. We are looking forward then to a report at their earliest convenience. So who is it that sits on that,
I'll
Councillor?
set up a meeting and email you with some times early next week.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Yeah, very, very serious issues and in need of swift response, so that's fine. The last item of business arising from delegations is Mr. Scott Turner and the Airport Committee, the Flying Club. At this time, are there any recommendations we'd like to make in regards to the requests that were put before us?
I like the idea of the charging of the hay for their, to put back into their coffers, which would help with the cost of money.
We might not know until fall who's doing it.
And I'm also looking at that weather station situation. Can we assist in any way in establishing a weather station? I don't know.
So you want to help them with the 1,800 thing, not the 500,000?
You don't want to use just a big rock?
On a chain.
Weather rock?
On a chain.
Yeah, the weather rock, yeah.
The rock is swaying, and it's windy.
It's seriously.
Covered with snow, it's snowing.
We just have to put it in the camera so they can see it.
Councillor?
So what I would recommend is now that they have actually made a presentation to the county, and that most of the county councillors, at least now, are aware of some of the things, I think if we need to put this on our intermunicipal agenda with the county and then work out some of these things together so that we're not second guessing one another who's doing what, and so that we have a good communication
I think the oiling is a very
on
important
how that all,
Well, I think,
how it's shared, how we share that service.
I think we would love to see more collaboration on the grant applications, just annually, just applying for all of them, see what we can get.
Does Councillor Lacey sit on that intermunicipal?
Not
Because
now.
he's the representative from the county
Jim Bester and
to the airport.
It's Jim Bester and Doug Thompson.
Yeah,
we have
Thompson, Councillor Bester, and Councillor Curl.
Councillor Kronen.
Yeah.
You're talking intermunicipal?
Intermunicipal, yeah.
Okay. So there's no county representation on the airport?
Yes,
Well, there is.
Fred Lacey,
No,
Maggie
he's-
Reed.
Right.
And I'm suggesting if you're going to discuss the airport, he should be involved.
Yeah.
Well, I think we need to invite both you and Fred to come and
Yeah, invite
sit in or
Fred to
something.
pitch to the intermunicipal, that's for their councillors,
Now you have
right?
an intermunicipal council meeting.
Well, maybe that may be a good thing.
Not being facetious, but Councillor Curl and Reed Bester does not know the information that Councillor
Yeah.
Lacey has.
Well, they should have gotten it if they got a presentation, right?
Well,
They didn't even know they were taxing the place.
yeah.
Which surprises
Some of
me
it.
because
It's come up.
They'll keep
Because
saying that next year,
Jeff
too.
had let them know, and
Well, all I'm saying is we need to make sure that Councillor Lacey is invited.
Yes.
Yeah, I think so. And
Councillor Lacey knew
And I think
they
you-
were being taxed.
Could be there too.
Right.
Well, he was aware that they were being
Yeah,
taxed.
they knew,
I would
because
say-
they came up at an intermunicipal meeting early, and the response was,
Sure.
all that taxes will not go, any of it will go to the airport, because it goes to the roads that lead to the airport.
Yeah, which
That was our
means
response.
That's where all the
that,
taxes go.
Yeah.
The many roads
So the
lead
answer
to
is-
something.
so there's a whole bunch of things, I mean, it's all interpretation, right?
If, I know that this isn't as time sensitive as you would want it on this issue, but certainly the airport has to be part of the intermunicipal collaboration framework.
Yes.
It must be part of that overall discussion.
Absolutely, I totally agree with you. And we have not started on that yet, and we have no inkling when we will even start.
Well, I think they're kicking the can.
Well, and the regulation's not out, to be fair to all parties, the regulation's not out.
Yeah.
And until it is, we're
won't
shooting
be
lightly into, we're shooting kind of into the
November.
dark a bit, although we know which direction it has to go, obviously. But we don't have the meat of the matter just yet.
Is there a response that the airport committee, the flying club, is looking for from us in the short term? Do they want to hear good news?
I think the mowing is probably one of
What
the
do they want
most,
to hear, or what are they?
the mowing is probably one of the greatest
Mowing.
concern right now.
I don't even
But
know.
it is such a poor timing for us, where we already using all our staff full-time. And we don't even have ourselves enough to do the town.
Yeah, when they
We're
We're
get
getting
over,
behind.
they get over, girl.
So it's really hard.
Yeah. I'm cynical on the airport. I'd like to just forfeit the license of occupation, let the cards fall with
Yeah.
mine. That's just me.
Well, we have some users who we need to look after.
We have a user.
A single?
Yeah.
Are they all county guys?
Yeah.
They're all county except
Oh,
for
Raymond, and they're from up Medicine Hat, another municipality. Leonard is the only town.
He's the only town.
But they're quick to say it's Cardston Airport, right?
And traditionally, those have.
We all know.
No question.
We always have been.
Yeah, no question.
Let's get Leonard to hang around at the egg dome.
So-
Flatten it out.
Well,
Use
no,
calls.
we do, well, I mean, we do own the airport.
We have the license of occupation for the land.
Yes.
But it's owned by the government.
Well,
There's a lot of places like
The
that.
land is-
St. Mary's Dam.
Well, one thought, I don't think it hurts us to apply for those grants, right? So let's, maybe, I don't know if you
And
have
I
a
think,
recommendation.
I think the breakfast is something we have always supported.
Sure.
We always have, yes.
So that is pretty well a given. If there's a given for an answer, that's a given.
And I think we need to
Uh,
make sure that they
and,
are aware that they can charge the name.
Well, we can.
we'd have to,
It's county. isn't it?
Well, no, on the 50
We have
acres.
license for occupation.
On the 50 acres, we have had, and again, I think it's always been Dexter, who said, look, I'll bring my machinery, I'll come down, I'll spend the time, if I can take the hay. To get rid of it and to clean it, we've said yes, but even if we're gonna sell the hay, we have to pay somebody to bale it.
yeah.
Well,
It's not
exactly.
baled for free.
Mhm.
And it's.
So we have to
exactly.
contract hay it, and then, yes, there'd be a margin, I have no doubt.
Mhm.
Yeah, I have no doubt there'd be a
Some
margin.
margin.
Yeah. So we certainly look at it for sure.
All right.
Okay.
Any official recommendations to administration, or do we trust administration to?
Well, one thing about the grants, I agree, it's easy to apply, but they are, like, the one big one is a 25% municipal match.
Right.
Yeah,
So we go do a $500,000 grant.
It's
We still have to-
$100,000.
We gotta have 25% of that.
$125,000.
Yeah, so it's not just a gimme.
yeah.
So all those things have to factor in.
So that would be one that we'd want to definitely, I think, work with the county
Yeah.
on together and make it can you do that joint application?
I wouldn't think they'd mind where the 25% municipal match came from.
Mhm.
You know, I think that would work out fine.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
It's a quick question. Did they say that the county was gonna oil it?
This,
No, that's, well, yes and no. They said they will get the oil, they will get the manpower, but they want
The grader.
$5,000 from the
they
town
want $5,000.
to cover the oil. In other words, they are going to bring the machinery and the manpower, and we have to get the,
It's originally $11,000 to do that.
Oh, okay.
And I think 5,000 is.
Well, I echo what the mayor said, our budget's been set, we just don't have a lot of extra money right now.
do we have
Some
any?
of- Some of the stuff's gonna have to get
Yeah.
probably put off for
Well,
another year.
the only thing is, do we have something in Public Works budget that could allow us $5,000 to oil that?
I mean, we can do
But-
5,000 less somewhere else, right? Of course, we can trade off. Like that road budget is one that's always fully spent, almost always. That's not one we have a lot of, we spend what we have. We have them come down and do as much as we can pay them to do. So at the expense of something, yeah.
Councillor.
I suggest that we wait for everything until the intermunicipal meets. And let's get the details of what's happening
Yeah.
between the two.
Yeah.
Maybe there's wisdom there.
Where the county is coming in at, where we're at.
All right. Then we'll try to have an intermunicipal meeting ASAP. they're willing. Are they willing? Can you get for?
Depending on the agenda, right? I mean, if we wanted to meet on the airport, yeah, I think
They'd come
they
together.
could meet.
If we have just that on the item in mind.
But if it's the intermunicipal development plan, if it's the intermunicipal collaboration framework, I don't think either party is prepared right now to get into that.
Yeah, well, we have other things to discuss.
But the airport, yeah, maybe.
All right, good, thank you for that. We'll move into questions now.
I hate to tell you, you have 10 minutes.
Yeah, we
You
don't
said
have
we
a lot of
make it
time,
I
but
thought we went to 9.
we might have to
No,
extend.
I-
You said we can go
Yeah,
till
you
9.
can.
I just moved to extend
Oh,
for an
yeah,
hour, so
we
we
extend
it
need
to
another
8.
motion if we
We'll need
keep.
another extension.
Which I-
But the first question was Councillor Edmonds on Axia.
No, I just wanted to find out where we stand, and do we want to continue soliciting names?
Well, you brought 40 names, I brought 40 names,
So I
so,
brought 80 altogether.
Yeah.
so you brought 80, I brought 40, so 120.
Well, it takes us up to about 40%.
Should take us, we should be in the mid-40s about now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I ran off to Ontario and didn't step up, so I'll go and beat the streets and back.
Yeah, I don't know our percentage right now, Councillor. We did talk to Axia, they called us and said when we felt everything was kind of ramped up, they'd give us our number, but we haven't called and asked for it since we last talked.
Do we have any idea when they're going to come? That's what everybody
No.
wants to know.
They're very clear about whatever your percentage is, doesn't guarantee anything, but it certainly factors into the whole.
50 would be as good as they've gotten from any other municipality.
Say, I think Sterling was quite high, that was it.
But it was really an oddball.
Yeah, yeah.
So do we want to continue canvassing?
I would
It's not
say
gonna-
it wouldn't hurt.
But is it going to make any difference?
Fort McLeod is getting it right now.
Because
Well-
it's very time consuming, because when you go to old people's houses,
They don't
they
understand.
invite you in, and they don't want to sign,
Oh,
or they want to talk.
they feed you?
So it's pretty time consuming.
Yeah, I understand.
So I just want to know if it's not going to make that much difference, or increase our time when they're going to come here,
We should be awful close to what we needed.
Okay.
or over
But
your.
we're over what we need.
Um,
We're just making the argument more compelling.
No. So essentially, the manager of Axia, that was Jason, who was our contact, is not working for Axia at this point. So there's a new
David.
fellow, David?
Yeah.
David. And we haven't, he's brand new there, so we haven't seen him or heard about him. I found that out when I was at South Grove and sent a message to Jeff and said, really? So at this point, I think they're just in transitions with that new manager. So it's going to take a little while before we even get the contact. We tried to contact Jeff.
No,
but-
we've talked in the last,
Oh, did you?
what, Friday maybe, Thursday,
Yeah.
Friday, whenever, right after I talked to you, when you were in last, he called.
It
And
was Monday.
It was just, yeah, we'll watch your percentages, you call us when you want us to give you a time frame of where it went to and where it is, and we'll go from there.
well, maybe it's a time to tell him, you know, we need to know because we could carry on or slow down.
Yeah. I'm positive they will not give any indication whether they're doing the install or not. I can assure you they won't. So if that's the answer you're wanting me to go fish for, I'm gonna come up empty.
Well,
They
does
might
that
be
have
able to
any,
indicate-
does that have, oh, I'm sorry.
No, I was just gonna say, they might be able to indicate if we keep going, if that might help our case.
Well,
But
I
it
think that
works.
goes without saying that it does, right? It makes a more compelling argument, for sure. But I know they're still doing due diligence. We still see quantum trucks around on occasion. They're still doing the work in the background. So I take that as a positive sign. They're expending resources to investigate this.
So this is why I think, I mean, I have a few more contact too.
Follow up on those, let's see what we can do.
So you guys have some maybe
I've got,
to do?
yeah, I'm gonna go there too, and tackle, see.
And so you have a little bit more work to do too?
a lot more.
You do a motion to extend.
Yep, we'll entertain a motion to extend. We have 3 more questions on the questions section and 11 pieces of correspondence to run
A
through.
motion to extend to 8:50.
8:15?
8:50,
But he said,
850,
Did I?
you said 15.
Oh, yeah, 8:50.
Okay, 8:50, all those in favor? Okay. The second question comes to Councillor Barnes, had a question about electrical and then possibly follow up on grass.
Just, I've been thinking about this electrical thing for some time, and from what I understand is that we did have a public plebiscite at some time, that we didn't want to sell our infrastructure, have we not?
No
We never had the.
Never had
We had
that.
public meetings,
Public-
we had some
public
open
hearings.
houses.
We had a public hearing.
Public hearing.
Okay, all right.
With about,
So-
20 people or less?
Yeah.
Pretty quiet.
I guess we keep on going around and around, and there's a lot of people, I've had people come in and they're not happy. And they're saying, why are you guys still talking about that? And,
Yeah, but how many people are we talking about?
well, it doesn't matter how many people, if you have 3 or 4 people that are upset, I mean, they're
Well-
talking about it around the coffee shop.
Yeah,
You know,
people,
so-
yeah.
But anyways, and those are just the spokespeople. And so I'm just saying, you know, if we were offered 10 point whatever million dollars for it, now they're telling us it's 4 point something, 4.6. I don't understand why we just keep on hashing this out. I think we just leave it alone for this council. I say, let's just, my recommendation is to cease discussing about it and let it go, and let the next council decide what they want to do. But I am just tired of going around here. We talked about other options here, you know, Jeff brought some other options about improving or continuing to own it, maybe do get into generation down the road. And I've thought about that for a long time. Before I got on council, I thought, why can't we get into these mini generation systems? Why can't we just approve a system, run it our own self, and do that? That's my feelings about it, and I think I'd like to recommend that we look into that even more than considering selling it.
Yeah, Councillor Mayor.
I really don't think we were at the point of selling anything right now, unless the business case was a business case that was compelling. Right now, we do not have a compelling business case. So therefore, if you don't have a business case that is compelling, why would you let go of a utility that is important to us? You need to have a compelling business case. The day it is, we might have to look at it.
Yeah, it's my understanding we don't have anything on the table.
Idea of how to answer some of those people, because I've had a few people, you know, talk to me about it, and you know, I just tell them what's happened in the past, that they made an offer, we decided not to accept it. And the reason we're still talking about it is as long as they keep making offers, we've got to say yes or no. So we just say, no, it wasn't compelling,
That's all I want to know.
we're not doing it.
Every time the offer gets worse, the and no is stronger, and then when it goes the other way.
Well, essentially, you have to remember, when we decide not to sell, is because we said in keeping it, we could make a fair return on our own investment if we were putting the money aside every year. That's something we did. Are we able to do it at the same rate in the future? That's a question.
Plus, we need
And-
at least one plane owner in the flying.
And we have to remember too that any utility is going to depreciate over time. And sooner or later needs a tremendous amount of capital to be kept up to par.
However.
Right now, we are working on it, but trust me, by the time we finish, it's time to start again.
Crow's Nest Pass ran into that problem.
You know, you finish,
We are keeping up.
the day we finish the installation of the K25 line, it's time for us to start to replace poles somewhere. So it's a work in progress. So you have to treat it as a business. It's no doubt in my mind, you have to treat it as a business. Not only as an emotional thing, but as a business. There is two parts to anything. You can keep your car forever. However, one day maybe so rusted out that it, no good to you can
Get a
keep
new
your
car,
car
fix it up.
rusted. So, we have also looked at all the possibility, and Jeff is actively searching for ways of improving the possibility of return of these utilities. And if what Jeff has envisioned come to pass, I think we have great opportunity and would be foolish to sell it. So,
Thank you.
Speaking of which, were there gentlemen on the roof over here?
They're doing the work for the solar panels.
Right.
So that's-
They've got most of the electrical downstairs work done, and they're just doing some mounting and racking on the roof.
Exciting.
Okay,
More of that.
my
It's like,
second
yeah,
question.
brass, something with brass.
Yeah, I've had a few people that have come to me about, you know, that why does the town keep on wanting us to cut our grass when they're not doing their own boulevards? I can cite 3 places that are concerned.
Town-owned property.
Town-owned properties, one just happens to be north of Dr. Russell's house, that boulevard in there is always 2 feet thick. And I see the little laneway down through the path that's going down through and across Dr. Russell's along that boulevard. So and then going up Fifth Avenue there, it takes a long time going up that hill. It's far and few between when they do cut it. And then across the street where we've got that community reserve going through the hill behind Sunderland's and Dr. Cunningham's and stuff, there's a community reserve up through there. Anyways, on that boulevard, it's oftentimes not cut. So I'm just saying, if we're asking our citizens to do it, we need to take care of our own house too. You know, so.
It's been a very wet week.
And I realize that. I'm just saying, it's been out there, and I can't honestly go back to them and say, well, I didn't bring it up.
No.
I'm just putting it out there. Okay, thank you for listening.
Now, were those all big boulevards that you're
Yeah.
talking about? They're
Not
not,
town
not hillside necessarily. but-
No, I'm not worried about that hillside. That can be hay,
Yeah, well, they
you
do.
know, but I say right along the sidewalk there. Okay. Moving on.
the only thing I can say, there is only so many man-hours, and so much volunteers, not volunteers, but students, helper. I don't know what it will take to bring everything up to par.
Our citizens can say too, I'm so old, I just can't get out
I
there
know,
and
but
plow on my own, I can't cut it, I have the money to afford to.
okay, well, then you
So
can,
just throwing it out.
we can always say, sure, we're
We
going
can
to
justify
do better,
anything.
but we're going to need 2 more people on salary and another piece of machinery.
And it's
Or
my,
It's,
Or more goats.
Go back to that council.
no, I mean, I totally agree, we should have a town that's well
Oh,
manicured. There's no doubt in my mind, it's appealing.
Yeah. But if somebody gets a tax notice saying that we sent the town crew up there to cut their lawns, then they can very well justify that they shouldn't have to pay it if we're not doing it, okay?
For
Well,
what
I'm
it's
not
worth,
saying they've ever got it.
But it's a logical fallacy to say that unless we are 100% that no one else should follow the law. That's completely untrue.
I don't
It
agree
doesn't
with
make
that
me
either.
speed or break the law because other people do it too.
No, I
That's
realize
a
that.
logical
No.
fallacy.
I
And
mean,
just because their expectation that every green space is manicured may not be the reality. Simple as that. You know,
I
we
mean-
don't manicure every green space.
Yeah.
you can't,
I'm talking boulevards here.
Well,
Those
boulevards, yeah, boulevards should be the responsibility of the adjacent property owner, generally.
Yeah, generally, you're absolutely right, but it's beside a town-owned property, that's
Yeah,
our
I have to
responsibility.
ask you about those locations, 'cause I apologize, I'm not following you on those ones.
Well, the one right by the road that goes to the dump, right
Yeah.
north of Dr. Russell's property. That strip is owned by the town. There's a lot there, a narrow lot that can't build a house on.
Oh, sorry, it's house down here, okay.
Yes.
I'm thinking of his house on
No,
the
I'm sorry. No,
Yeah,
down
yeah.
here going to the, no, that street right down there. I used to do the lawns there, and I used to cut 15, 20 feet of that much grass that belonged to the town. And that was well before I was on council, and I was frustrated then. So,
Maybe we'll defer after the meeting,
Yeah.
if you could sit down with Jeff.
Yeah, I was thinking the wrong Dr. Russell
Yeah.
property. I knew it was rental here and his house up there and I wasn't.
right, it's the rental one.
Yeah, okay.
Okay.
Next question, 8C, vehicle purchase, Councillor Bengry.
Yeah, Jeff, I want to follow through on something. We are decommissioning the peace officer's truck right now. Is that right? We're going to take the stripes off and
Yeah,
then...
it'll go to the sewer plant. It's going to water, wastewater, yes.
I have a concern about that, and this is my concern. With the stripes on it and the way it's set up, I think it brings more authority and image to our downtown man. If he could get that truck and we get the new one, it's just a sight thing, you know, and I'd like to see us leave that truck all striped up. And in the situation that it is, so that he has a more visual authority with it. That's my only concern. And I know that you probably got things planned that you're gonna take the stripes off it and take everything off it. I would, you know, working with the RCMP, you find a lot more authority when you see a striped vehicle than you do an unmarked vehicle. I don't know how you feel about it, but that's my concern.
I understand what you're saying. My concern is it was never intended to have two bylaw officers in town. And it was never intended to support two with infrastructure like $50,000 trucks. And I'm not very keen on having a brand new truck in a temporary position with a person who, we did make him a bylaw officer for town bylaws for the animal control, but it was never that intention. We didn't budget for another bylaw truck. I don't want to see that position spin into something much greater than it was intended to be right now either. That's my other concern.
Is this, okay, then, is this just a seasonal thing?
It was a 1 year, as you remember, it was a 1 year evaluated position to see how we wanted to do that over the year.
Okay.
And I haven't been crazy. I know Brad has been intent that, oh, let's make him a bylaw officer, let's get him a uniform, let's get him a truck, and he's trying to make this a bigger position. I've had to rein that in and scale it back. I'm not prepared to go full bore on that at this point because it just wasn't the intention. We didn't budget for that kind of expense in that department.
Okay.
And I wouldn't have talked Bart out of not getting a truck in water wastewater if he knew that one wasn't coming to him. That's the other thing. So he agreed to do a swap and get the white truck over to, so that red truck that Malcolm's now driving will be the white truck from water wastewater as soon as we make the swap. I mean, that's obviously up to you, council. When we intended the position, it was a 1 year trial. It wasn't even going to be bylaw officer. We weren't going to even go down that road.
Jeff, I'm
was both in
only
position.
just mentioning my concern.
Yeah.
And you've answered my concern. And hey.
There may be a spot.
I have no problem
Yeah.
with what you're saying.
If we get a year down the road and say, man, we gotta have that position, we consider it now vital, let's look at that
Yeah.
type of infrastructure.
I think we need this temporary year go.
But right now, it's just this trial position. We don't even have a full-time contract with Malcolm, right? We just got a temporary employment contract. And I don't know that I've been cautious about it, Councillor, that's what I can say. Been really cautious about that.
Thank you.
And Councillor Bengry, we've got you for 8D Public Works.
Yeah. How am I going to approach this?
Spit it out.
When I came on council years ago, it's the position of council to protect our administration, and it's the position of our administration, the CAO, to protect council. Jeff, you sent out an email concerning our outflow line.
Yeah.
My concern is, I think we as a council need to know what is happening in that situation, because we just reviewed our budget and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And so it puts us into a precarious situation. If this becomes a real financial stress, I wish we would have heard about it. In my position, I wish we would have heard about it sooner than later. That's the only thing I'm saying.
Hopefully insurance will take care of injuries that might be faulty.
Well,
right?
my concern is, do we fall back on the engineering company who engineered this project,
It's a good
you
company.
know, and I'm sure that Jeff is on top of this. But if it continues to fail, you know, then I think that there's an absolute due diligence that hasn't been followed through with the engineering company.
But if there are legal concerns, we
Yeah.
might want to defer to
Yeah.
a different kind of meeting.
Yeah.
Just real quick, I appreciate what you're saying. It wasn't my intention to withhold the issue from you for any length of time. We found a couple, there was 2 other leaks earlier this year. The hope was it was simply an acute problem, that once we fixed it, it was fixed. But now we're finding it's probably not an acute problem, that it may have a bit of scale. But again, we just thought, we got a bad piece of pipe, we'll replace the piece of pipe, patch it up, we don't speak about it again for 30 years. No need for alarm. But now we're recognizing a pattern. We've been doing some additional due diligence on the pipe. Stantec's here tomorrow. They're bringing a big crew of people in tomorrow. So they'll be doing a lot of work for us. They've been great. Certainly no issue on their part for helping us try and
Are they
understand
the
this.
company that did it?
The
Yeah.
Stantec engineered it. Yep.
Installation?
Yep, so they're down tomorrow with some people. So that's why
And
at the point of the 3rd leak in, it's been 4 or 5 months, that's when I informed you to say, this may be bigger in scope than we thought, so I'll keep you posted.
Now, how are we dealing with the environmental issue?
Alberta Environment's totally aware of what's going on. We hired trucks to pump effluent all yesterday while we repaired the pipe. And we're complying with everything we need to. So no, everything's above board, everything's fine. We had just hoped that, hey, we got a bad section here and we're gonna fix it, it'll go away. But it may not. It may not.
Okay.
Well,
So, yeah, I guess we're on that. Couple of comments. First of all, question, are the leaks in a certain area, or are they kind of random?
No, they're close to the plant.
They're mostly close,
Yeah.
they're kind of within a...
They're within a quarter mile of the plant anyway,
Okay.
a few hundred yards even.
And it's running down that.
Anyway, I guess Stantec will find,
Yeah.
maybe hopefully they'll find. I just, reading, farther on in the agenda, I saw under the little newsletter from small communities, this Mayor Thorpe's innovative pipe renewal solution. If we still have problems, maybe we should look at that.
They're using the fix we used under Zenith Gainers, Imagination Unlimited, the epoxy liner.
Yeah.
That's what they're using.
Oh, I see.
So,
That would
yeah.
be something to look at for that.
No,
No.
I don't think that's I think we have some major pressure issues in these lines that it's an engineering piece, I
So,
think.
the leak that was on a transfer road,
Yeah.
on the road, that is the one you guys just...
Yeah, they fixed it yesterday, yeah. So thankfully the dump was closed yesterday, so it was no problem, and I think they tidied up the road this morning.
They did. They
Yeah.
were on Saturday.
Yeah, so again, maybe it is maybe it's not a large scale, I don't know. We don't know yet, so that's why it's kind of a stay tuned, we're all learning here.
Are they able, we were not able to camera that whole pipe?
I don't think the camera would show us what we're after. Yes, we could, we absolutely could. But
It's actually the pipe disintegrating.
No,
it's
It's
breaking.
It's crushing?
Yeah,
It's breaking because of too much
And it's
pressure.
heavy scheduled PVC pipe, which is very unusual, so. Yeah, I don't know, so we'll see.
Okay, thank you.
Maybe they-
Well, keep us posted.
Yeah.
we'll probably get another report next week.
Well, as soon as I know things, yeah,
To the
when I know, I'll let you know.
Thank you. All right, that concludes questions. We'll move into correspondence. If there's some significant comments, slow me down, but I'll just kind of fly through them. We've got our first correspondence, 9A, is a letter from it's just a notice of a grant that we did not get. So thank you very much, but no thank you. So we'll reapply for that as often as it takes. 9B is the carbon levy disbursement programs and where that money's going and all the millions of ways it's helping municipalities, despite the fact that she does admit it's costing us several percentage points. So that's nice from our minister. Number C, correspondence 9C, is our MSI announcement that we're funded for the next year and 2 years. And so that's fabulous news. We don't have to worry, and very exciting. 9D is to remind us that it is Seniors Week, June 5th to 11th, and to take some time to promote Seniors Week. It's a request to promote that.
Well, I mean, I don't know about the timing on that one because.
It's this week.
It's already well on our way.
This week.
After breakfast. So,
Yeah, a little late getting to us.
Late, no problem. So we have 9E, which is our letter all about the electoral reform and the work that they're moving on that. They're not going to do the big changes, but they are considering a couple little changes, and no way of knowing what that means until we know what that means. So that's fine.
Like a politician.
Yeah. Well, there you go. The Ag for Life letter is a request for a donation. Is there any appetite for making a donation at this time?
I just want to understand, if you don't mind me asking. Jeff, did we ever give to Ag for Life? I know we donate for safety, ag safety.
You donated to the group out of Sterling that does the school program.
Yeah, that's
I'm
what
not
we,
familiar with this group.
I mean, at this time, the county might be interested.
We'll file that for information.
I'm not familiar with any of these programs either that they list.
No, I'm
I know
not
that's
familiar
not
with it, no.
familiar.
Okay.
Donna sent us an invitation from the regional library system to attend their 25th anniversary. Is there any appetite to send a representative from our council?
Well, Councillor Edmonds is going.
You'll be there, so you'll
I would
be,
say,
he's already planning.
should be going.
We will be represented, and hopefully those appetizers are up. So that's good. The Small Communities newsletter was very nice, just giving us kind of an update on
Always good.
what some small communities are up to. Again, just information from the AUMA Committee over Small Communities.
The only thing is, I would honestly say that AUMA needs to change the background of the politics.
Yeah,
Absolutely,
Whoops.
it's absolutely horrible to read.
And that is as hard on
I
paper
will
as it was
send
in
some, we have somebody sitting on there from Southborough, and I'm thinking, got to let them know they got to change that, it's horrible.
Right.
Can't read it.
Oh, you mean?
Yeah.
Ruin
I
might be
didn't try
better.
to read that.
Oh, yeah.
I mean,
Stuff like that.
you can't
You
read
didn't
it.
miss much if you couldn't read it. So, but there it was. 9I, we have the ramifications, meaning the consequences of the legalization of the marijuana, and what that means to enforcement. For us, that's going to fall squarely on the shoulders of the RCMP. And
Well-
we'll see if that has any.
In one point,
Yep.
it could fall on.
Could fall on our bylaw
Yeah.
officer, so we'll keep a close eye on the reports as they come through
Yeah.
on that one. 9J brings us to the provincial election boundaries. The suggested changes to remove Tabor and to give us Picture Butte and Colhurst. So that's the recommendation there. We're going to wrap right around and include a good chunk of Lethbridge County. We do retain, though, our brotherhood with the Lethbridge Band. So they're going to rename the district Cardston Kainai, which is fantastic since we are not the biggest municipality in the boundaries, but that's fine. And again, this is still just recommended, proposed, so this hasn't been decided yet, but my guess is they'll go.
Yes, do we have any input into that?
I think that was quite some time ago when they did
Yeah.
like the reform input.
If you remember, we had spoken about that, and then we were explained that all those divisions were done according to population.
Yeah.
So they're exactly all 25,000 or something like that in the population. I'm not sure of the number, but I think it was something like that.
It's about 100,000 per.
100,000,
Yeah.
okay, all right, so I was wrong
But
there.
that'd be
And that's the way it is, and that's the way we might not like it, but
The final letter, 9K, was an invitation to attend the Southborough AGM. Our mayor is planning to attend, is that correct?
yes.
So we will be represented there, and that's fantastic. Also, just along those same lines, the Alberta Southwest AGM is tomorrow. I will be going up to Claresholm for that, and so yeah, represented at both those AGMs. At that, if there's no other recommendations, yes,
I'll move to adjourn.
thank you. There's the one that we need a vote. Thank you, Councillor Edmonds. Hold on to your airport file. Jeff doesn't have one, so he might borrow one. Or did you get one? Okay. That did not come digitally.